It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show, seeing as how I still have the risk board out, I want to show you one territory on each continent that you should avoid when playing this game. Don't bother fighting for it or trying to take it over. If you already have it, you can defend it at your leisure, but it's not something I would fight for or invade or even bother with if you can help it. So let's begin, shall we? On previous episodes of this show, you've heard me talk about chunks of land in this game that are either meat grinders or are of high strategic value. I'm going to show you one territory on each continent that is pretty much worthless and or hard to defend against and should be avoided at all costs. Now, if you happen to start out with these territories, as I mentioned earlier, you can try to defend them, do what you want with them, but I'm showing you these territories in the hopes that you will not try to conquer them if your opponent has them. So let's start with Australia. Australia only has 4 territories. The worst one is New Guinea. It's small. Yes, it has 2 jumping off points, but if your opponent controls almost all of the Australian sector and you only have New Guinea, good luck with that. You're not going to get out of there. It's not connected to anything else but the same continent. And if he's building up his forces, it's only a few rolls of the dice away before you get taken over. Avoid New Guinea. Asia. Asia is a meat grinder, and I've mentioned this before on a previous episode, and I'm not getting into that, but I will tell you, as much as I like Japan in the real world, it is a poor place to try to hold on to during the game. It's one territory, even though it does have jumping off points into 2 other territories in Asia. If you are stuck there and surrounded by your enemy, it's the same thing as if you were down in New Guinea. You're not going to get out of there and do a lot. In fact, you're going to get your ass kicked very quickly. This is the same with Madagascar in Africa. Madagascar is an island. It has jumping off points into 2 other territories in Africa, but again, if you're stuck there, you're going nowhere. And I've played enough Risk over the years to tell you that it's not worth keeping. Lightly staff it with forces and let it get taken over if you have to. Focus on other things. Now, South America is interesting because South America jumps off up here to Africa or up here to Central and North America. Very strategic to a certain extent. But if you are stuck down in Argentina, that's a hard territory to get out of, even if you own 1 or 2 more, because if your opponent controls a lot of North America, he's going to be coming down and stomping you. Almost as bad as the British did to the Argentinians in the Falklands, which is somewhere over here in case you're wondering. So, Argentina, not your best bet. North America. Now, you might think there's really nothing bad in North America. I tend to disagree, and I've seen this happen in the game, and this is going to surprise you. Alaska is the worst territory to have. Not only are you facing all of North America, if you somehow have that by itself, your opponent, if he starts controlling, or your opponents, if they start moving from Europe into Greenland, they're going to start pushing you, and Alaska is connected over here to Asia. So if 1 or more opponents are sending stuff over from Asia and starting to mass forces, you're going to get squished in the middle in Alaska. Not the best situation. And finally, as much as I've said Europe is the most strategic continent on the map, it has one fatal flaw, and this is going to be another surprise, and this is Russia. Mainly because Russia has jumping off points into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 territories. It is surrounded. If you happen to only have this and maybe 1 or 2 others and your opponents are around you, trust me, this can end up being the biggest meat grinder in the game. You thought Asia was bad? Oh, you just wait till you get a taste of Russia. Ain't no vodka gonna save you on this one. The sad thing about all of that is I kind of prefer to have Alaska sometimes, but it has turned into a real big problem being bordered by Asia and the rest of North America. And I've also held on to all of Europe at any given time, and Russia is by far the biggest problem because of all the other territories it touches. Never mind the fact that even if your opponents aren't too busy over here, if they're coming up from Egypt, Russia's still sitting there surrounded, and he's going to start moving troops across Europe. You're going to get it eventually. I'm not doing this to scare you. I'm doing this to show you the territories you should stay away from and help enhance your game so that you can win. Have a great day, everybody.